Continuing our character study of Ruth, and we're going to talk about Ruth and Naomi, a healthy friendship. So we're studying the story of Ruth. If you didn't get a chance to watch the last video, I give pretty much the whole story. Go check it out so you can get caught up. But real quick, Naomi is a lady who is from Israel. She moves to another place in Moab because there is a famine. She needs to find a job and get some food. Well, her husband goes. They go as a family. The husband dies. She has 2 sons. They marry people there, Moabite women. They're there for about 10 years and then the sons die. She's stuck with her 2 daughter-in-laws, tells them, hey, go back to your families, go find another husband, nothing I can do for you. Orpah, she goes back. Ruth, she stays with Naomi. They move back to Bethlehem through a whole bunch of great circumstances. Ruth remarries someone that's related to the family. It's a guy he's called the Redeemer. It's like a cousin or something. I go into more detail in the previous video, so definitely go watch that. But I wanted to look at Ruth and Naomi's friendship. There are a lot of examples of bad friendships in the Bible. My go-to when I'm talking about toxic friendships is David and Joab. Joab was an awful friend for David. Just caused him so much grief, so much headaches, helped him when he was wrong and sinning. Like, Joab was just an awful friend. So as I was studying this, I was really happy because I said, wow, this is a great friendship. And I'm going to give you 3 reasons why Ruth and Naomi had a wonderful friendship. The first is that there was freedom in the relationship. They weren't trying to control each other. And this is one of the hallmarks of a strong relationship between friends, is you're not so insecure that you're always trying to control somebody. You're scared of losing a relationship, so you try to find ways to manipulate them so that way they always need you. That's not friendship. So at the chapter 1, Ruth, her husband dies, and then the other sister-in-law, her husband dies, and Naomi is all alone. And instead of being worried that she's not going to be taken care of and that her financial situation was now unstable, and so she needs these young women to support her and help her so she can survive, she doesn't say, oh, please stay with me and help me. I'm an old woman. I don't know what to do. She doesn't do any of that. In fact, she tells them, hey, go back to your families. It says this in verse 11. She says, turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? She says, have I yet sons in my womb, that they may become your husbands? Turn back, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, even if I should have a husband this night and should bear sons, would you therefore wait till they were grown? She gives these people all of these reasons why they need to leave her. She says, look, I'm too old. I'm not going to marry again. It's just not going to happen probably. The other thing is I'm not going to have kids. So why are you going to stay with me and wait? And even if you did, you'd have to what? Wait for them to grow up and you're not going to marry anybody? It's just not going to happen. Go home. What's best for you is that you would go home. My point being is that Naomi wasn't trying to control them. She was very much wanting them to make the best decision for themselves. She didn't want them to end up in a bad spot. She wanted them to have good, full lives, even after having to bury their husbands, and it's very sad. She wanted them to go on, and she wanted them to, hey, find a new life. There's someone else out there for you. Sometimes as young people, what we do is we get so insecure about our friendships. We want to have friends. And so when we get a friend, we feel like we have to dominate their schedule. Like they can only be with us. They can't be with anybody else. We only want them doing the things that we want them to do. And if you're that type of friend, you're going to have to say, all right, I need to change some things. And if you have those type of friends, you're going to have to say, okay, well, I can't let them control my whole schedule. I can't let them make every choice for me just because they're scared of losing friends. So a good friend recognizes that their friends are also individuals and that they're going to make decisions and choices and that they have a life to live. And our life paths might not be right next to each other. We get nervous about this at graduation. We're like, oh man, some of our friends are going to move away and go to college in another state. And that hurts us sometimes. Or they're just going to get busy doing their thing. We're going to get busy doing our thing. And then we're going to be like, oh man, we're not close anymore. It causes a lot of discomfort. But I'm just going to say this. If somebody is your friend, regardless of the distance, they're still going to be your friend. I had a friend call me and he lives like way down in the south. and we see each other only once every few years. And he said, hey man, you're like my closest friend. We still stay in touch. We still talk. Yeah, do I wish he was still living in the same area as I and we could hang out? For sure. But he was doing what he thought God wanted him to do, and he's starting a business and he's doing well. And I'm happy for him. And I'm doing what I think God wants me to do. So a good friendship leaves room for people to grow, and sometimes that means that they grow away from you as far as vicinity, as far as life path. They end up going into a career field where you're not going to be able to spend a lot of time together. And that's fine. Maybe that's what God has for them to do. What's awesome is whenever people are following what God wants them to do and their friends support them, even if it means like, hey, you're going to be moving away. Hey, we're going to be distance between us. Hey, we're not going to spend as much time together. But that's fine. It's okay. God is going to bring other great people into your life. And you might be a friend from a distance, but that doesn't mean that you're not a true friend. So maturity says, okay, I need to let go of the reins and stop trying to constrain my friends just because I feel comfortable when they're near me. I have to give them space to do the things that they're going to do in life. Getting a job. One day they're going to get a boyfriend or a girlfriend. They're going to spend even less time with you. Going to school. Whatever it is. So true friends are not trying to control their other friends. A good friendship has a lot of freedom. And it says, hey, look, figure out what you're going to do for you. I want you to live a good life. And that doesn't mean that I have to be there for every second of it. Do I want to? Sure, you're my friend. But that's not the way life works. And I love that because Naomi was just like, no, go ahead. I want you to. And then they were like, no, we're going to stay. And she's like, no, go. And one did go. And she doesn't talk bad about her the rest of the book. It's not like she's like, hey, yeah, that person was trash. This was a test. She wasn't being like that. She wasn't like, I'm trying to test my friendships. That's another manipulator move. But we're talking about good things. Naomi sincerely wanted her daughters-in-law to move on with their life and not to be burdened with all of her problems. So she said, look, I'm not going to use this and guilt trip you to control you. You have the freedom to go. Go ahead and go. Orpah decided to go, but Ruth decided to cling to her. And that's my next thing. Ruth and Naomi were incredibly supportive of each other. So Ruth is like, look, my mother-in-law is older. She doesn't have anybody to take care of her. She's like, I'm going to stick with you. She's like, wherever you go, I'm going to go. Wherever you live, that's where I'm going to live. Whoever your people are, they're now my people. And whoever your God is, that's my God. But she's like, you're stuck with me, girl. And she was there and she helped. And when they get into town, she says, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to try to find some food. I'm going to go work in the field. I'll bring back food for us. And I think that's great. It's just Ruth is just really sacrificing her time and energy, but to take care of somebody that she cares about deeply. That's a good friend. And then you have later when Ruth meets Boaz, and it looks like, hey, there's an opportunity for them to get serious and her to get married and start a new life. Like, that might change the dynamic for Naomi, because Ruth might have a new mother-in-law, and she's going to have a whole other set of family that she's going to have to be responsible for, as a daughter-in-law. She's going to have to go to their Christmases. They didn't have Christmas back then. Whatever, Thanksgiving, whatever they had going on. Naomi didn't hold her back. Naomi said, oh yeah, here, let me help you. Here's what you do. Here's what you say to Boaz. Because you're a Moabite woman. You might not know all of our customs. So let me teach you and show you. And so Naomi was kind of like played matchmaker in a little sense. Said, oh, let me tell you about that guy. So they were both supportive of each other. And that's a good friend. A good friend says, okay, what are you trying to do in life? And if it's a good thing, I'm going to support it. I'm talking about supportive like in a good way. Not just like, oh yeah, I have a dream to become the biggest drug dealer in all of North America. I support you. No, that's not what we're talking about. But it's Naomi is going through a tough time, and Ruth says, here, let me help you out. My wife, almost every week, she's cooking some meal in the kitchen. I'm like, ooh, that looks good. Oh, that's not for you. What? I'm like, what the heck? She finds people who are just had a baby, who have a sick family member, or maybe they're burying somebody, unfortunately. But they're kind of going through a tough time, and she says, well, I'm going to cook this meal for them. She's showing some support. That's what good friends do. Good friends aren't like, you're like, hey, I'm going to go to trade school when I graduate, and I'm going to become an electrician, whatever it is. Oh, yeah, but you're not smart enough to do that. That's not a good friend. A good friend is like, that's awesome. If you need help studying, let me know. I want to help you reach your goals in life. That's a good friend. So for us, if we could learn when's a good time to support our friends, say an encouraging word, be there for them when they're down. Sometimes it's just listening to them when they're going through a tough time, but us learning how to support our friends. That's a healthy friendship. When you have friends who support each other, they're not trying to tear each other down. That's a bad relationship. And people get into relationships like that, where you have somebody who they're supposed to be your friend, but all they do is criticize you, make you feel bad. Just whenever you're around them, you just feel less because you spent time with them. They never have anything good to say. Like you were excited about doing something with your life, something positive, and they found a way to discourage you. That's just not great. And it's not great when we do that to other people also. You have a friend who says, oh, I want to get in shape and start working out. It's, oh, dude, you're too lazy for that. Come on. Sure, we can make all these little jokes and all that. And I like to make jokes. I'm one of those people. I like to tell jokes and stuff. And sometimes, though, I joke too much. And sometimes I say things that get me into trouble. Sometimes I say things that either hurt my friends or discourage my friends. And so I have to watch that. Sometimes I have to go apologize. That ain't fun. So I try to be somebody that's got a positive word. Oh, you're trying to start a business? What are you doing? Let's talk about it. I'm trying to start this side hustle. I'm doing this and this and this. Okay, let's talk it through. I want to listen to it and I want to hear it. Maybe give like, hey, did you ever think about this? Did you think about that? And sometimes the ideas I have aren't great ideas, but it shows my friends that I'm interested because I really am. And they can hear it and that gets them more excited because they get to talk about their great idea. I want to support my friends. I don't want to discourage my friends. When your friends are working out, if they've gained muscle or they lost weight or whatever their goals are that they're trying to do, if you notice it, let them know. Wow, did you lose some weight? That's awesome. Good for you. When they win an award at school, let them know. Say, dude, that's awesome. That's pretty cool. You worked hard for that. You're a pretty diligent guy. I think you deserve that. Like, we have to get past this thing where it's awkward for us to say positive things to our friends. So be supportive. They were supportive. They were there for each other when things were down, and they were also supportive of each other when there was great opportunities. And they didn't try to hold each other back. They tried to help each other. And that was great. All right, and then the last thing is they were open about their relationship with God. They could talk about their faith. Ruth said, I am choosing to follow your God. I'm choosing to be one of your people. Naomi, at the end of chapter 1, when she's going through a tough time and she's trying to figure out what is happening, this is what she says. She says, do not call me Naomi, call me Mara, which means bitter. It says, for the Almighty, this is God, has dealt bitterly with me. I went away full and the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi when the Lord has testified against me? The Almighty has brought calamity upon me. So she was open about how she felt about what the Lord was doing in her life. Even though I think that she was wrong. I don't think God was angry at her. But that's how she felt. And she could look and she could talk to Ruth and be like, this is what I feel like is going on spiritually. And then later when something happens good and Ruth meets Boaz, she's like, wow, God has not forsaken us. God has been good to us. Like, this was something they talked about a lot, was their faith. It wasn't uncommon to them. Now, if you have friends that you can't talk to God about, are they really your friends? God is a big part of your life. And I know that, like, in my youth group, not everybody is as serious about their faith as everyone else is. I get it. We're all on different levels and we all think about it differently. But for the most part, faith is a part of your life. Most of our teenagers come every single week. We have a good, strong core group. It's awesome. And if you go to school on Monday and you feel embarrassed to talk about your faith to people, are these people really your friends? For something that's such a huge part of your life, why do you have to feel embarrassed to talk about it? Now, I'm not saying all of your friends are going to agree with you. Not all my friends agree with me. I'm not going to say all of your friends are going to believe the same thing that you believe. But it shouldn't be weird for them to hear you talking about the Lord. He's a big part of your life. And if we're ashamed to talk about it, we've got to ask ourselves a question. Number one, is it us? Is it just that we're just embarrassed because it's not the quote-unquote cool thing or whatever? Or do we know that the friends we have would mock it so much, our faith? Here's the thing. I've had plenty of friends. I have some friends who are believers. I have some friends who are not believers. But my friends who are not believers, even though that they don't believe in God or the same God that I believe in or whatever. They got different views. I don't feel like they mock me. They tell jokes and stuff. I mean, that's just me. I tell jokes too. So it's like, hey, if you can't take it, don't dish it out, right? I'm fine with that. But I never felt like they had this contempt for me because I was a believer. And I had friends that had like some serious like problems with religion. They were like, nope. But they were like, okay, well, I know you. Well, that's part of your life. Okay. Like, regardless where your friends are in their faith, you should be comfortable speaking about your faith with them. Shouldn't be so odd whenever you say, yeah, I was praying about something. So when I worked at a company, before I worked at the church I work at now, I had some coworkers. And one was in a different denomination than I'm in, and the other one was really not a believer in Christ. But on a regular basis, and not every day, but like, every couple months or so, I said, hey, look, I know you guys don't believe the same way I do, but I want you to know that I pray that you guys will have a great week and that God would bless your families. I just want you to know that. And they never took it like, the one person who didn't believe, like, oh my gosh, you're just the most awful, horrible person. Don't do that. It wasn't like that, It wasn't like those like Christian movies, right? Like God's Not Dead or something like super dramatic. It wasn't like that. I'm sure there's people out there like that, but this wasn't this girl. She was like, well, I appreciate that. That's kind. Thank you for that. I don't think you should have friends in your life where you have to kind of hide your faith from because they can't handle it. I'm not saying you have to argue with your friends. I'm not saying you have to preach to them every day. I'm just saying that if you can't talk about, oh, I went to church on Sunday. Oh, I was praying and God answered my prayer. I was reading the Bible and I saw a verse that helped me and gave me some wisdom. If you can't say stuff like that on, a semi-regular basis because they just can't handle it, I'm sorry, that's just not a great friendship. You ought to be able to talk about your faith. And then this too is you guys who all go to church together, you guys ought to talk about your faith together. Like in church, people who attend church, it shouldn't be weird when we talk about spiritual things. That should be the most normal place to talk about our faith, is with people from church. So good friends give you the freedom to go after God's will for your life. They don't try to hold you back. Good friends support you in good times and bad. And good friends allow you to be open about your faith and to talk about God. All right. God bless you. We'll see you next time.